Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to At Home, the podcast. It is 2025. We took a little break, but we are back continuing season 5 with episode 8. Today, we will be covering the topic of self-care versus soul care. But before we get into all of that, Dustin, you have some trivia for us, and Angie and I can't wait. So why don't you
ready.
Kick us off?
Guys, I've been looking forward to this for a very long time, to finally be on the other side of trivia. What a time it is here with you guys.
We're trusting them.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a great day outside. Chris always likes to allude to the weather. It is, it's nice and snowy today.
Yeah.
Perfect day to be inside.
It's like vertically. No, it's snowing, but it's like going horizontally.
It is.
Like,
Yep. Side to side's horizontal, Angie. That's the first trivia question.
well, I was like, it's not vertical slowing. It's like
horizontal snowing.
Sideways.
It is.
Hey, it's a new year. 2025, as Brant alluded to already, and I thought it could be kind of fun to ask some New Year's resolution trivia questions. So
Ready.
here we go. There's 5 of them. Get ready.
Yes,
All
we are
right.
ready.
Question number 1. Who made more resolutions in 2024, men or women, according to the advanced research that I checked out?
Okay.
Ooh, you know what would be a better question than that, Dustin? Let me turn the table on you. Would be how many of them?
Control of
You just got the table.
Who fulfilled the most? I'm going to say men made the most, but women fulfill the most. I think that's probably accurate.
I'm going to go that women made the most and that they kept them.
Okay. Well, according to the research that I was looking at, men made the most last year of 2024.
1-0, Ange.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Second question. What was the most popular resolution made for 2024?
Oh, I'm going first on this one. Definitely, probably to be healthier in body and mind. And most people say would exercise more, be better.
You're covering a lot of areas there.
I
so
know.
win.
I
you took all the answers.
I did take all. I'm going
Is
to
it
say
exercise
lose
or
weight.
food?
Okay.
I'm going to say lose weight.
She says lose weight.
Okay, I'm going to say eat better.
Okay, you say eat better. Both are incorrect. The correct answer would be saving more money.
Oh.
Which is ironic, but yeah, saving more money.
How is that in this economy? Sorry.
Right.
Yeah, but they didn't say making more. They said saving more.
That's
So
more.
That's true.
still 1-0. Here we go.
Third question. What percentage of New Year's resolutions revolved around improving one's health this past year? What percentage?
Which is a good thing. Yeah,
Right.
good percentage.
So you're...
But you said the most biggest one was financial. So I would say 40.
I'm going to say 75.
The answer, 79% of resolutions revolved around one's health. Improving one's
crushing
health, I
this.
should say. Okay, here we go.
2-0.
Question 4.
This is what happens when you give it over.
That's it.
You become the loser.
It just falls apart.
Now you know how we feel, Angie.
You know how I feel every time. What has been the top New Year's resolution for 2025?
For 2025?
Didn't you just ask that?
Nope, that was
No, that was
2024.
24 was financial.
Yeah.
25. Well, I'm trying to think. And this is, you didn't give us the place where this is coming from,
I
but
didn't. Just my sources.
I'm kind of going culturally. I'm going to say maybe be on the internet less or your phone / like social media.
That's probably a good guess.
It's a great guess.
I wish I could do that one too, but I want to be different.
Be different.
I'm going to say it's the same as 2024. Save more money.
Trick question. It was save more money.
Oh, I was being so.
That was good. That was number 3. So good
well,
job.
I was
Well done.
close, but you were.
What's the score?
It's
3-0.
It's some, but not as
Do you
much.
have a
All right.
tiebreaker? No. all in.
Number 5.
All or nothing.
Fifth and final question about New Year's resolutions. What is the most popular day that people give up on their resolutions? Popular weekday that they give up on their resolutions. I thought this was interesting.
Friday.
Okay, Brant?
I'm going to say Sunday.
You are incorrect. It was Friday.
Yay!
You
I
got
got that
one,
one.
Angie. Good
Thank
job.
goodness it's Friday. That's like the whole idea.
No,
That's
I know. I would have guessed Friday too, but you took it, and I didn't want to be the same.
End of the week, end of your goal. Apparently, they just give up.
Yeah, we just give up.
End
Oh
of the
man.
week,
There
end
you
of your
go.
goals.
Well,
Hey, do you guys have any New Year's? At least one New Year's resolution for this year?
Yeah. Okay. I don't want to be like. I don't want to seem like too special or anything. I just really wanted to read through the Bible this year, so I started. the Bible recap. So don't.
Oh, that is
listener,
good. I've heard
the
that's
listener.
good
I'm not
too.
trying to be over spiritualized, but this is my first time, and I'm being really honest. As a individual, first time to read it through
Cover to cover. Or
chronologically.
okay.
Oh,
which is
yeah.
super interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I challenged our staff
good.
ladies. You guys didn't get the text.
We didn't get the text.
Wow.
So Tina's in it with me.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and Erica.
Okay,
That's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Angie's known for giving the Bible answer all the time, so it's fine. No, I'm kidding.
So I didn't want it to be that, but
I think for me it's just to be healthier in general. I know that's broad, but try to be more aware of what I'm consuming, the types of food I'm eating, and if you know me, you know that I typically don't care about that, but I'm getting to the point in my life where I'm seeing the negative effects about not caring, and I want to be here for a long time for my family. So I figured we'd start simple and grow it from there. So
good.
Awesome.
What about yours, Dustin? Come on.
I'm taking one out of the Brant 9 playbook that I heard him say a while ago. I know that he didn't come up with it, but he said it, and the whole be where your feet are. So one of the things trying to do better is when I am home, the phone is down or it's plugged in somewhere else in the house to not be a distraction. It's just amazing. You just realize how much you're looking at it, even when you are sitting in a room with your kids or even doing an activity with your kids that's still right by you or in your hand, or you can still glance at it. So really trying to push that to the side when we get home. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Good. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Because it kind of goes right into our conversation, doesn't it?
Here we
Dustin?
go.
great segue.
Love it.
It is, because being where your feet are means that you're present, you're intentional, you're making the right choices. And so I like that segue. So we decided that we're going to do kind of an intro today on a subject. What you said was self-care versus soul care. So when you hear those two words, guys, let's talk about that. Like when you hear self-care versus soul care, what do you think about?
I think it kind of goes with the resolution thing. I think a lot of times I put self-care in a New Year's resolution kind of category of I'm going to focus on myself so that way I can help others. Take care of yourself before you can take care of others. So that's kind of like the first thing that comes to mind was self-care.
Right. Yeah. I mean, pretty self-explanatory with the self-care as far as just thinking of things that can genuinely help you. I mean, like in different areas, whether it's emotionally, physically, or whatever else. But yeah, what are the things that you can do or you can add or you can take away that can help you versus soul care, which is, more focused on your soul, and how are you doing things that focus on that versus just what you think you need or want in the moment for yourself.
Okay. So I'm going to ask this big thought is, would you ever put them together? Would you ever think that self-care is actually part of soul care?
I think so. I think yes, I wouldn't default there, but I think I've heard different speakers and read in different books about how they're so closely related. And if you are in a good place spiritually, mentally, physically, that typically all of those things are intertwined. So I think yes, but I don't know if I've done personally a deep dive into what that means.
Any extra? No?
Nope, that was good.
Okay. So the reason why I'm asking these questions is because I kind of had a come to Jesus, come to reality moment that they're actually the same. Because what happens is, have you ever been burnout? Have you ever gotten to this point where
Yes.
you're burnout? Okay. So tell me some of the things that you could list, and then I'm going to go in, I'm going to read a little bit, some concepts, and then we're going to talk about it. What would you list as a symptom of burnout?
I think
Symptom.
the first thing I would say that came to my mind was just my attitude. I think I just started realizing how negative I was about my situation or what was going on, and I just never found the positive in my environment or with what I was doing. And so I think it just came up multiple times of just like, man, why am I'm just negative? And that's not who I normally am. I feel like I'm, for the most part, a pretty positive person. So that was the first thing that really made me realize that maybe I'm just getting burned out. I'm getting worn down with what's going on.
Yeah, I think that makes the most sense, and that would rise to the top of my list. I think priorities, like where my priorities lie, is a symptom of of where I'm at. So burnout, if I'm not prioritizing the right things, then typically can get burnout a lot easier.
Well, do you ever think of this concept that we're walking around like we're all burnout sometimes because we are a negative society, we're tapped out? I'm going to list some of the symptoms of burnout, and you just tell me what the culture around us say and mirror this, So what about feeling overwhelmed, a nagging sense of failure, some self-doubt, insecurity, tired, drained, exhausted, lacking motivation or energy, maybe feeling alone or isolated, even when you are with people. And then there's physical symptoms, often with headaches and lack of, not being able to sleep or sleeping too much, both and. So wouldn't that just mirror our culture a little bit, what we see happening around us and in relationships and kids and adults and parents, marriages, all the things?
I think it's interesting because as you read through that list, yes, you can see how those are very common, but that's not what is portrayed in our culture. So it's the thing that everyone's trying to hide, but everybody knows that all those things exist in all of our lives and all of our families because of the pace that we're constantly going, the schedules that we all carry, the calendars that we all have. I mean, it's so much. And so to not, or to think that those things don't exist is just, to me, it's like, it's naive because they all do. And so how do we go about living with those things? Are we living in reality? Or are we living with, no, I don't want people to know that I'm tired. I don't want people to know that I'm worn down or exhausted. Like that's a sign of weakness, when in reality it's where we're all at.
Well, because I think it goes to this idea of like, where did we get our belief system that what we're due to take care of ourselves versus our soul? Like, where did we get this idea? I mean, it's kind of like something that is almost innate in us, that we're supposed to kind of tryhards.
Reach our full potential, right?
Right.
Yeah. Maximize every opportunity. These are the phrases we hear all the time, right?
Yeah. Be the best you can be, just do it,
100%.
all the time.
Yep.
So I'm going to read a couple of these things that our belief system would say to us out of the book that we're referencing, which is called Soul Care by Deborah Felita. And you tell me, like, if this is not a belief system that you kind of grew up and understood. We are supposed to push through, and that not pushing through is a sign of weakness. Push through the hard things. We believe we are the ones who have to do it all sometimes. We have to finish the project. We have to be the best parent. We are believed to have to be all things to all people. And we believe our value and worth are tied up in our productivity. I think this is a big one. Like, what you produce is like your identity. We believe we are supposed to suffer through life, maybe a little bit, it's supposed to be a little hard. We're supposed to sacrifice. We believe we don't deserve to rest, take a break, or take care of ourselves. And a lot of times, this is very much stems from our own spiritual identity, that we're to sacrifice, we're to care, to go. And I don't think Jesus ever said those things.
In our small group, we're talking about these practices of life, and two that we've hit on so far are Sabbath and simplicity. And they are totally countercultural to what society values. And I was a teacher for almost a decade, and I was almost criticized for the amount of rest opportunities I had, right? But everybody's trying to get to rest, but then if you have too much of it, you get criticized for it, right? Or a simple lifestyle, right? And so the value structure in our culture is very much, are you busy? Like, I get asked that, like, how busy are you? Or if I don't say, man, it was a busy week, then I feel like I'm not as productive, like you were saying, Angie.
Or even valued.
Yeah. And it's like, a question I was asked one time by somebody I love and who's close to me is, what do you do all the time? And they asked it like that, like, what do you do? And I was teaching at this moment, but like, what do you do after 4? What do you do in this, the summer months? And, my answer was, I try to prioritize my family, and I try to rest, and it was almost like this. Yeah, it was undervalued, that aspect. Yeah.
Yeah, there's almost always a price to pay for our busyness, one way or the other. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're either sacrificing the relationships we have in order to be more of a productive person, whether that's at work or wherever else, or we're maybe giving, if we are investing or giving more of ourselves to our family, then maybe we're not feeling like we're getting ahead enough at work or wherever else. And so we always feel there's that little bit of a guilt feeling of like, there's not enough time, there's not enough of me to be able to be everywhere all at once. And so really trying to intentionally prioritize what is the most important, how can I improve in these areas as far as like with the soul care and with the self-care, and how do those affect each where I'm spending my time?
Well, I think they 100%, because I'm going to say, listener, maybe you haven't heard this, and you guys can, push back on this, but we get these spiritual bypasses, or we get over spiritualizing our commitment to the church, to the people, and spiritual maturity does not equal emotional maturity or physical health. Mm-hmm. And I say this in a way that I don't think Jesus intended for us to live in this burnout state, this negative saying that, well, I'm sacrificing, I'm giving my all, I'm living. What did he actually do? What did he say? Let's go away. He would go up he'd go up on the hillside and pray, take time away. We're going to get into some of the rhythms of who Jesus is and just some of the how-tos and what we can do in our next podcast. But this is laying out the idea. I don't think Jesus intended us to live at this 100% capacity.
No, I mean, I think that's why he says, come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Because I think he understands that I don't think he's saying that you're never supposed to be busy, or that's not, acceptable. Yeah. But it's this idea of like, when you are overrun, when you are worn down, when you are burdened, when you feel overwhelmed, you need, there is a rest factor that is not only important, but it's needed. Like you have to have this as a part of your life.
Yeah. So one of the things in the book that kind of opened my eyes to this is we can do this financially all the time. What is it called? Live within your means, right? Yep. So like we make choices to save money, to give money, to spend money. You kind of have, I don't know, did you guys all grow up with your parents giving you a ledger that you had to keep track of your money and where it all went before you got your next allowance?
That sounds like a Denny Yoder, Jeannie Yoder thing.
No, let's just say the first one.
Ledger.
It was a ledger.
I can see that. That's so funny.
I know. So long story short, it's just funny because this week I was telling the twins, since they're turning 18 this year, I was like, guys, it's time for you to track your money, and you get a debit card. You don't get to have a credit, because I think credit cards mess you up, a little bit in this living within your means. So
what was the first big purchase you made on your own?
Yeah. On my own? So
I didn't say good purchase. I
bought a car.
Yeah.
So I bought a car. But you want me to tell you the long, short story of that?
Sure.
I crashed the car, and I never was able to fully pay that debt.
You know what? Denny told me one time, I think it was Denny, your dad.
Oh, I'm sure it was stories about me.
He told me, and I think this goes along with what you're about to read. He said that when you guys would get paid an allowance for doing, a certain number of chores or whatever it was, that that allowance would get split into three.
Yeah, three
money
things.
You get to save, money you have to give, and money, I can't remember.
You can spend.
Money you can spend. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that is brilliant. Like you're teaching so many things in that, right? But yeah, I love that. Like
I know.
There's envelopes for each of those things. Give, spend, save.
Okay. So that's our money. That's easy. That's an easy concept for us. So let's put it into our lifestyle. Okay? We have only so much energy, right?
Yes.
So we have to give that energy. We have to spend that energy. We can save some energy. And we also have to, give energy to other people. Like you have to serve in your life. So why do we get to this point in our lives where we're living this burnout lifestyle and we're at 110 capacity when really it's supposed to be about kind of that 85, 80%?
So that
Because
way we have
have
more.
to give
Right.
and to save.
Yeah.
I know. So I'm going to read this, and it says, living at 85% doesn't mean you don't give your best. Because isn't that what that makes you kind of think, 85%?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
I'm not giving my all.
Every
Yeah.
sport I've ever been a part of.
110.
110, right? Yeah.
110. This is why it's a little okay.
Yep.
Listener, we did a staff training this morning, thanks
Yeah.
to Brant and Chris Knight.
Yeah.
And one of the descriptions, and I'm going to be honest, is in mine is that you go against the social norm. Okay. And so I think that sometimes we are so scared as individuals to go against the norm because we don't want to, we fear failure. We feel fear being, pulled out or isolated or, whatever it is. But I think to think in this way, we have to reprogram how we live our lives. And we'll get to that point. But I love how this says it doesn't mean anything. Like giving your best is what the Lord wants us to do, as if we were doing everything for the Lord, as Colossians 3 says in 23 and 24, verses 23 and 24. What this means is that we shouldn't live at 100% capacity. If we assume that giving our best and doing our best means living at 100% capacity all the time, we are actually having no energy left over and no reserve to draw from when a need arises. And if we're honest with ourselves, we can admit that it's not healthy for ourselves and for the people around us when we do that. So, living below your means, like we just said, and I'm going to read this part. The concept of living under capacity is a necessary principle, but we specifically hear about it in the world of budget and finances, which we laid out there. Okay. But if you spend 100% of your paycheck every time you get paid, you'll have nothing left for savings. Okay. But also, when you're living at 100% capacity and you have nothing left to give, you have nothing left to bless others. Have you ever been in that situation where your day was so packed full and you had nothing left to give your kids at bedtime or your wife or your husband or a friend or your parents? Okay? Think about this concept from a moment in terms of your emotional, relational, and physical energy. Are you living at 100% capacity, and do you have a reserve? Is there margin in your life and in your schedule, or are you constantly maxed out? I think that's a question we all have to ask ourselves, because I don't think Jesus wanted us to live at that level.
No, I mean, that's why he created the Sabbath, right? That's why God created the Sabbath.
Right.
I love, and this goes right along with what you're asking and what you're alluding to, Angie. I love what John Mark Comer says. He says, that's why we have Sabbath, for the reasons that you just said. It's an expression of faith that there is a creator and he's good. We are his creation, and this is his world. We live under his roof, drink his water, eat his food, breathe his oxygen. So on Sabbath, we don't just take a day off from work, we take a day off from toil. We give him all of our fear and anxiety and stress and worry. We let go. We stop ruling and subduing, and we just be. We remember our place in the universe when we Sabbath, so that we never forget that there's a God, and I'm not him.
Amen.
And I think that's where giving space for him to use you is also part of allowing there to be 15% more, right? So giving 85% allows God to still use you before you're maxed out or burn out, like you were saying.
Right. And I want to build on that, because what you just said is you're realizing that you're not God.
Right.
Like, do you ever get through a day and you feel like, well, I did it. I accomplished it. Everybody's still in their place and doing what they're supposed to do, and they're in their bed sleeping, and nobody died.
Yeah. 100%.
Do you know?
Yep.
You get to that. That's actually not our job. That is not our job. And speaking of my journey through the scriptures, I've been in Job. They go from Genesis to like Noah, and then you jump to Job, and then chronologically.
Yep.
And I have sat in this idea that God numbers our days. He has specific things. And I've really sat in this idea that, he is so sovereign. I think that's one of the biggest points in Job that I've gotten, is his sovereignty all the time. Like even in our questions and even in our wonderings of why things are happening to us, it doesn't really matter. He's still God. And we're not trying to, we sit down here, try to figure it all out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do. We try to, there had to be a formula for that. Like, why did that happen? Or how can I control it better? And yeah, absolutely. You were just mentioning about how we get done with the day and we take a deep breath and we're like, okay, we made it. We did it. I was just talking to a friend this morning. He and his wife are considering, to have kids, and he was asking, what is that like? And I said, when you do something really hard and you get done with it and you're like, whew, I'm glad that's over, but I really, even though it was hard, I really enjoyed that. Like, that was good, and I'm happy about it. And he said, yeah. And I was like, that's every day with parenting. It was really hard. It's like working out a muscle. But the moment you're done, you're like, oh, that was hard. But I'm glad I did it. But that was hard. Now I'm ready to rest. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I say this is that we have to push back on what we're kind of almost ingrained in society.
Right.
Like to walk the other way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard too, because when you think about, we were just talking about the financial piece of it earlier about saving, spending. I think what we try to do, like some people, they're like, well, if I don't have enough money, I'll just go make more. But that we can't do that with time, So I think some of us think that if I just work hard enough, then maybe I can just create more time, but we can't. So it doesn't matter how productive we are, how successful we are. That's not going to give us more time. And so how do we transition that into our lives of, okay, if time can't be multiplied, and if that is truly the most important thing as far as like to be able to spend on ourselves and then the people that we love and care about, to be able to give ourselves, how are we investing in that time? How are we breaking that up like you guys have been talking about? And it's hard because I think the idea that we've been told by culture or whatever is just, hey, go hard for a long time. And then
you're 65, then you can put your feet up in Florida.
Exactly right. But at that point, it's like, how much of my time has already been invested into something else that has nothing to do with me or the people I care about? So it's like daily, where are those pockets? Where can we make time? What are the things in our life right now that we don't absolutely need to do? One of the questions I wrestled with a lot last year was this idea of what am I absolutely, me, Dustin, what am I absolutely called to? So I have a job that I'm called to, but I am a husband, and I am a father, and I am a pastor. And those are the things that I'm absolutely called to. I'm a friend, I'm a son, I'm a brother, all those things. So it's like, how do I invest in those things? And I'm not so sold out to one that nothing else ever gets the attention of what I've been called to do.
Right. Well, I have a paragraph that I wrote that goes exactly with what you said, which kind of gives us the segue into what we're going to talk about next week, which is the how we do this. Like sometimes you got to lay out the reason we're maxed out.
Yeah.
We're all burnt out. I got to that point. And so personally, I got to that point and this book came into my life by chance. You know how you just you look up, well, you guys know I like books.
Angie loves books.
Yeah, and so I just got to this point where I'm like, I gotta get off on this how-to. There's like all these how-to books and all these self-help, and this one just I just felt like I just needed God to just care for me, like just show up and show me where am I and who am I and what am I doing this for? And that's kind of how this soul care book from Deva Felita kind of rose. And I've read it, and it's so simple, and it just goes along this line of looking at Jesus's life and saying Jesus lived this idea of soul care, and it actually ties in to self-care. And as Christians, we just kind of decompartmentalize these two things. And we put, well, self-care, that's too selfish. We're not supposed to do that. We're not supposed to worry about how much sleep or what we eat or what we drink. We over spiritualize. And that's actually not what Jesus's plan was for us. And that he did walk. He did spend time resting and taking naps and being with people and doing these things and setting margin and
praying in the secret place
and nurturing and protecting and being in this place where he set himself apart. And we just are so overwhelmed. And so I got to this, and I really like rhythms. Rhythms are important to me. You guys know that, right? Like rhythms and structure.
Habits, rhythms,
Yeah, systems, all that stuff. They're really good. I love them. And I had gotten so far into this journey that I had gotten to this point where, okay, I'm going to work out for 20 minutes. I'm going to read my body. You know what I mean? And you get all the checklist. And soul care actually isn't a checklist. It isn't. It's a lifestyle that you choose to implement intentionally. We use that word all the time, but it's intentionally understanding how to care for yourself and set up the margins, the rhythms, the things that you need to do to make things in your life flourish and live abundantly. Because I love this verse, and it's actually, you can find it in our blog that's on the podcast. We have to realize that the thief, this is Satan, who's out there trying to get us all distracted. Dustin, how many times have you said like distraction is like his big key, isn't
That's
it?
Yeah.
It is. And he comes to steal, kill, and destroy us. He wants us to be sucked into this cultural norm of 110%. But Jesus says, I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. And have life and having it to the full is actually caring for yourself in such a way that you can live called. Because just what you said, I know who I am and I know what I'm supposed to do. And I also know that I'm called to be a husband. I'm called to be a father. I'm called to be a pastor. And the only way we can do that is by setting these rhythms and not living maxed out, being able to be who we need to be for the people around us and be better for it.
Right. That's good.
So I hope maybe you find yourself, listener, in this new year saying, I'm going to set these resolutions up. I want to be better. I want to do better. I want to eat better, right? I want to, be a better parent, do all these things. But as a disciple of Jesus, and as we here at Walking MC, we say disciple makers too. Yeah. We don't just want to be a disciple; we want to make disciples. Is that it takes time to set apart and actually look, where am I at? My emotional health, my physical health, my mental health, and my spiritual health. It all comes together in one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So hopefully, join us as we journey through this idea next week on the how-tos of what soul care really looks like. Dustin, do you have a preview of maybe one thing that you think that maybe soul care has?
Come on, Dustin, you're on the spot.
I know, I do. I pull.
I got to be honest, you did catch me completely off guard.
I know.
Soul care.
You did give one verse that I liked, which is, all who are weary,
Sure.
he will give us rest.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if we're going to be diving into that anymore, but I do like the idea of that, and just not allowing maybe the world to make us think that that's a bad thing. I think that we immediately, like Brandon mentioned that earlier about just the idea of sometimes we feel like if we're resting or on vacation, we're already thinking about, I got to get back because I've been on vacation too long. Now it's time to get back. But to genuinely be okay when you're on vacation, to be on vacation.
Take a big, deep breath. Breathe in. Okay, that is totally right. Because I'm going to leave you with this.
That was it.
Let's go.
Jesus took naps.
Yes, he did.
There we go. That's what we're going to talk about.
On that note, we are so glad that you joined the conversation today. And until next time, we hope it encourages you in the days ahead.